Good evening, everybody. Today's speech is going to be on ALS, or commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The day-to-day life of someone living with ALS is a constant back and forth struggle. For those of you who don't know, ALS, or commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is an incurable illness. ALS, or asyntrophic lateral sclerosis, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. The disease is caused by a lack of muscle nourishment until finally the muscles receive no nourishment whatsoever, and they finally shut down and completely cease to function at all. There are two different types of ALS, sporadic and familial. Sporadic, which is the most common form of the disease in the U.S., is 90 to 95% of all cases. Familial ALS, or FALS, account for 5 to 10% of all cases. In the U.S., familial ALS means the disease is inherited. Both of the diseases, however, are incurable, and in most cases are fatal. However, in recent years and many medical advancements later, scientists have found a new understanding to the psychology of this disease. Although there is currently only one FDA-approved drug on the market for this disease and only works for a small percentage of those diagnosed, there may be in fact hope for one day a cure for this terrible disease. There are now support groups being formed all around the country for people with this disease, and although it may be incurable, the purpose of the groups is to increase the quality of life for those infected by this disease. People at any age or at any time can be affected by this disease. For some unknown reason, however, those with military experience are twice as likely to get ALS than the general public. More than 12,000 people have positive diagnosis of ALS at this given moment. About 3 out of every 100,000 people will contract this disease. No one test can definitively show whether or not a person has ALS or not. The diagnosis usually undergoes careful observation of the symptoms done by the physician, which usually can take a little bit of time. Since ALS symptoms can be the same as diseases that are treatable, further tests need to be taken before any diagnosis whatsoever can be made. The causes of ALS have not yet been truly identified. However, the biggest breakthrough was in 1993 when scientists found a mutation in the enzyme that is usually associated with the disease. The mission of the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Strokes is to seek fundamental knowledge about the brain and nervous system and to use the knowledge to reduce the burden of neurological disease. The goal for NINDS is to identify the key components in the disease and pinpoint the causes in it and show how it can be treated. So far, though not much is known about the origin of the disease. Lou Gehrig is a famous baseball player in the 1930s, and that is where the disease gets its street name from. Lou Gehrig was diagnosed with the disease on June 19th, which was his birthday. Gehrig's condition was very severe and was only given 3 months total to live. Some of his symptoms were difficulty moving, swallowing, and speaking. Gehrig was one of the more famous cases regarding ALS. He was diagnosed back when the name ALS was spoken lightly, meaning no one really knew what it was or the impact it could really have on a person in the community. When Lou Gehrig was diagnosed, the world was in shock, and so was the Gehrig family. Through Gehrig's struggles and endeavors, the term Lou Gehrig's disease was born, and so was medical advancements in fighting the disease. Lou Gehrig's disease, or formerly known as ALS, is a terminal illness with no cure, although many medical advancements have been made in the fight to end this devastating disease. Not much is known regarding the treatment nor causes of this disease. All that is truly known about this disease is the impact it has on the person, as well as the effect it has on the family and the one affected. The disease, although not many are diagnosed with it, those that are only really have one option as far as treatments. Only one FDA-approved medication is available, and although there are support groups to improve the patient's quality of life, there is not much the physician can do for the patient. ALS itself is a sheer medical mystery. It is something like the Bermuda Triangle or the stones at Easter Island. No one knows how it got there or its origins, they just know it's there. Although there is still no cure for the disease, the fact that there is a breakthrough in medical advancements every day just means that the days of ALS are numbered and a cure is imminent. The people who are affected will just have to remain strong, and all we can hope for is for the day when the disease will no longer bring terror and fear on those affected.